I hate Mondays, Howdy. I'll tell you why I hate Mondays.
Tell
Because
me.
there's no more Monday Nitro. I'm really sad about that. We need more finger pokes of dooms in this world. We need more David Arquettes. We need more RoboCops and uh, I don't know,
We need
Disco
Monday Night
Inferno.
Impact back.
Yes, yes, we need it back. Today is our Monday Night Wars episode. It's gonna be WWF versus WCW in a all-out war, and maybe we'll find out which one we think is objectively better or subjectively. I mean, I think it's WWF. I was always a WWE guy, but anyways, Monday Night Wars. So if you don't know WCW Monday Nitro, it was pretty much like the alternative to Monday Night Raw. There's one distinct difference from it in the mid '90s. You had Monday Night Raw, a veteran in this whole entire sports entertainment industry, ran by Vince McMahon, who's in the midst of a steroid trial, who is losing all his top stars: Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Ric Flair, all shipped back to WCW. And then you had WCW Monday Nitro, which was WCW's flagship Monday show. But the difference between Monday Night Raw and Monday Nitro in 1995 or 4 was the fact that Monday Nitro was live. Was live.
Yeah, WWF would actually tape multiple show actually months in advance. So it was also breaking kayfabe at the time because you'd see guys in real life walking around with the belt that you didn't know they were gonna win yet. So like it was a huge like breach in the wrestling world. A practice that also, Jim Crockett Promotions was doing down in Georgia for a while, but carried on to WWF, the pre-tape shows, because doing it live is super expensive. People don't really think about that. Renting out the same space on a weekly basis and doing it live is so expensive that Monday Night Raw started off as a live program, eventually had to shift back to pre-taped, which was also an advantage for Nitro. Nitro had the money,
Yeah.
you know.
They had the backing of billionaire Ted Turner. And
Mm.
I think by this point, I don't even know if Vince McMahon was a billionaire. But I do remember that
No,
in the Monday Night Wars, WWE or F loved to talk mad shit about Ted Turner with the billionaire Ted skits. Remember those?
the
And they
War
made
Room, yeah,
the War Room. They made Hulk
yeah.
Hogan this freaking old man and Macho Man Randy Savage. Did they
They
like
called him the Nacho Man.
Nacho Man? Yeah, I was about
Yeah,
to ask that.
yeah,
That
and
was great.
they had
Um,
also like Mean Gene, Ted Turner, Hulk, and Nacho. Uh,
Man, they went crazy. And then you had this wasn't like nowadays where it was AEW versus WWE, which seems kind of tame, you know, because there wasn't really, at least compared to the Monday Night Wars, it wasn't about, hey, we're taking over this company. Let's always talk bad shit about this company. Let's do skits about this company. No, it was
this was for
back then.
blood.
This was for blood, man. WCW and WWE guys hanging out together weren't really. It was kind of a taboo thing to think about. But whenever Monday Nitro WCW became live every Monday, they took over all the viewers from WWE because WWE didn't have your Hulk Hogan's anymore or your Macho Man's anymore. They had your Bret Harts, which is cool. They had your Shawn Michaels, which is cool, and your Yokozunas and all that, but you also have your I don't know, Max Moons and Bob Holly as a race car driver and Bastion Boogers. Like it's the gimmicks were getting more ridiculous. Storylines felt less original and felt like they meant less. You know, wrestling in general that year, 1995, in WWE at least, was a bit underwhelming. Um, which is part of the reason why WCW was rising up in the ranks. You also had the controversial steroid trial that WWE had to go against, which really put Vince McMahon down and almost made Linda McMahon take over, which honestly probably would have shut down WWE forever. Um, but as the as the years go on, then you had the coming of people like Steve Austin, Austin 316, the birth of a certain group called Degeneration X. And you eventually had some I don't know if you've heard this, the Montreal screw job, the birth of the Attitude Era. Let's talk about how WCW and WWE fought each other there.
When we talk about the Attitude Era, before we even get into that, I want to talk about like why the WWF needed the Attitude Era. And you talked about how the product was getting stale, right?
Mhm.
But on the flip part, they're losing talent severely to WCW. WCW got the money, they have the time. Guys from WWF could go to WCW, get paid double what they were making at WWF, and work half the schedule. It's kind of a
Yeah.
no brainer for like, and with shocking appearances like Lex Luger, who worked a house show, and the next night he's on Monday Night Nitro. A lot of guys in the
Yeah.
WWF didn't know if it was a shoot, didn't know like did is Lex like invading them. It left fans fumbled and they wanted to tune into Nitro to see who's coming up next. Shortly after Luger, Alundra Blaze is on WCW TV and she's dropping in the women's championship into the trash can, completely deep, like completely ruining the image of the WWF. And then I think most importantly, we have the debut of Scott Hall. We have the debut of Kevin Nash a couple weeks after that. These guys are sitting in the crowd. They're beating up people backstage. They're stopping people from entering their matches. And genuinely, people thought it was a shoot. Because what was Scott Hall saying when he was invading? He's like, your best guys versus our best guys, right? And then that led to, what was it, Bash at the Beach?
Yeah.
Where they said
Mhm.
3v3 and our mystery partner, and it was Luger, Sting, and Macho Man
Who was the
versus.
mystery partner? I don't remember.
A lot of people speculated it was actually Luger because in the middle of the
Yeah.
match he gets stretchered off and he left. So they're like, "Oh, is it Luger's gonna come back?" But then Hogan comes marching down, and he's
Let's
like, "Oh,
go. He
you know,
Hogan's about to whip some ass, man.
classic Hogan. He's walking down the ramp, he's pointing his fingers, shaking his head."
Hulking up.
Exactly. He comes in the ring. And honestly, I can't even imagine what it must have been like to witness this live. Hogan leg drops Macho Man. Hulk
Oh my
Hogan has
god.
turned heel. The biggest baby face in all of professional wrestling. He transcends wrestling. He's a superstar. Is a
I
bad
mean,
guy. A
yeah,
bad guy.
I remember seeing the documentary, the behind the scenes of this, and Hogan had full creative control. So they kind of offered this to him, but it wasn't fully guaranteed until it happened. Hogan,
Exactly.
Hogan's a god at politicking, man. You take that as a good thing or a bad thing. It's a little bit of both. So you didn't fully know if he was actually going to finish it. And apparently, if Hulk Hogan didn't go through with it, then the heel turn was going to be by Sting, which would have been another shocker actually, because
Wouldn't make
I don't.
sense because he's not an outsider.
He's not an outsider. He's kind of an insider. But Hogan. Oh my God, one of the best heel turns of all time. And this was another thing that boosted WCW's ratings because it was where the big boys played. It was the unexpected. WWE 1995, 1994, 1996. It was the complete expected.
Yeah, even that tagline where the big boys play was calling out WWF for only like marketing the smaller guys now because of the steroid trial. They're poking fun at them, you know. They're like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. We
and
accept
even
steroid usage in WCW.
but even so, their tagline where the big boys played was also a little show they had where they would air clips of WWF guys in WCW getting squashed, and they're like, these guys can't hang with us. But again, with that Hogan heel turn, the crowd reaction was insane. Someone threw a beer bottle at Gene Okerlund and broke his nose. Like, like a fan jumped the barricade and tried to attack Hogan before he stopped by
Oh my
National.
god,
Like,
dude.
and you don't like. I don't think people understood the magnitude of what a Hogan heel turn was,
And
and
then you had
it,
the
it
Hogan heel promo after, which was, oh my god.
yeah, and it almost felt like shoot like because he's like, I'm tired of the ungrateful fans because obviously the popularity of Hulk has tanked by that point. in WCW. You know, he's not the main guy. But this propels him to the top, and this is also like a shift in pop culture in America because now people don't root for the good guys anymore, right? They
Yeah.
think the bad guys are cool. Everyone in the crowd after this wearing an NWO T-shirt, you know?
Yeah, it was so cool hearing like Hulk Hogan be like, "This Mean Gene is the new world order of professional wrestling," or something along those lines. That was such a cool line to say. New World Order, NWO, and then it was so funny when he was like, "Whoa, Mean Gene, tell all these people to shut up."
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was so amazing. And this was around what year? 95 Bash at the Beach, or was it
I
94?
think it's
Some
96, and
96
and
Bash at the Beach?
and I really what's even crazier is that now that we're like what 20 30 years removed from it, almost 30 years removed from it, the NWO is going to go down as a top 3 faction of all time, right?
Oh yeah.
Arguably could be number 1. Um like the cultural significance of the NWO, people wear NWO shirts and never seen wrestling before, you know?
They're like,
But
"Oh,
that's
this just looks cool." I
exactly.
mean,
Uh
one of
s-
my biggest dream matches, and this could be a WrestleMania main eventer, would be NWO, the original three, versus the League of Nations. Now that is a match that we need we need to see. The storytelling that could be told behind the League of Nations and NWO. Oh my god.
you, you, you know what?
Yeah,
Scott Hall, let's go back
yeah,
to WCW, but
yeah.
like, again, now that we're so removed from it, we kind of only know WWE and the way WWE perceived WCW. But if you talk to, for example, we just did a couple interviews with some wrestlers. A lot of people grew up with WCW as their main product. Like
Yeah.
they saw guys like Scott Hall and Hulk Hogan as the coolest people ever. Scott Hall would get hit in the face with sodas and stay perfectly still and just fix his hair. He was the
I mean,
coolest dude out there.
honestly, what other promotion would you see Hulk Hogan and the Big Show fight in monster trucks? Not WWE. That's what we want. We want
That's
monster
for sure.
trucks.
That's
But
for sure.
I will say in 96 though, that was in my opinion the uprise of WWE. Um you had you had people like Vader coming in the company, I believe, around this time. You had Shawn Michaels, I believe, finally winning. The boyhood dream has come true. You had storylines that were actually mattering. You had badass superstars. This was the year that was, I believe, no, was it
King
Michael
of the Ring.
or Bret Hart and Austin, 97? Or was that 98
No,
or 96 or
that's 90.
97?
I believe it's 96 WrestleMania
Yeah,
13
96 WrestleMania 13. One of the best matches ever.
ever.
And then you have, again, Austin 316, King of the Ring, which some people can say that debatably, started the Attitude Era, or kicked off the Attitude Era. But there's one thing for sure that really I guess, increased the popularity and impact of who Steve Austin is, made this guy a star, made this guy who is a mid carder in WCW turn into something more than a mid card, made him turn into something more than stunning, more than a ringmaster. He was stone cold Steve Austin, and he's gonna whip your ass. And wow, dude, 96 WWE had one hell of a good competition against WCW, I would say. And still wasn't as good when it came to ratings and views. There are still tons of stupid gimmicks. And that being said, WCW had tons of stupid gimmicks, tons of stupid gimmick matches. You had fucking the Yeti. You had the Yeti debut. What the fuck? But you also had the Giant, aka or Andre the Giant's son. In canon, it's Andre the Giant's son. I think during this time you had the Ultimate Warrior, who was in WWE for a bit in '96 too, which kind
He
of also
returned. Yeah.
for like a few months, and so did Roddy Piper, I believe, against
Yeah,
Goldust.
both at WrestleMania 12.
Yeah,
The Ultimate Warrior return and the Gold. By the way, that the Roddy Piper Goldust feud, people hated Goldust, man. Like that, the Roddy Piper winning was like what really made people turn on the TV for WrestleMania. They
yeah.
wanted to see Roddy Piper whip him.
They want to see
Uh,
Roddy Piper make out with Goldust, then strip him into his lingerie, and a whole OJ Simpson chase scene,
yeah,
middle of the night. It was fucking
definitely.
great.
Yeah,
But I this is a little fast forward, but I want to talk about Goldust for a bit because I remember watching this as a kid and this was really cool or very weird to me because I didn't know if this was real or not. Remember when Goldust or Dustin Rhodes made it to WCW and he was like someone named Seven or something? And he did this like whole, I think it was maybe a worked shoot promo where he's like, I left WWF because that stupid ass Goldust gimmick, and now they put me here with a stupid hat, making me look like a creep. Just talking shit about the gimmick live on air,
definitely a shoot.
which by that point I think like that was when WCW was falling, but we'll get to that later. But I guess now is a good time to talk about the year of 1997, what happened there between WCW and WWE, and the rise of WWE, I guess would be a good one. And I first want to start off with Bret Hart, the Montreal Screwjob, and I guess what fully happened there. And I find it very well. First off, Montreal Screwjob, Vince McMahon. We talked about this last episode too. Vince McMahon screwed Bret over in his hometown of Montreal. I'm sure most people would know about it. If you haven't, look at our last episode with Shawn Michaels, because Shawn Michaels played a crucial part of the Montreal Screwjob. And I remember when Bret Hart, after that match, he would just like air write WCW live Survivor Series on air. He was pissed off, and then he eventually made it to WCW, and they didn't know what to do with him. he didn't do anything, and then he got injured by Goldberg like 2 years later, which isn't WCW's fault fully, but I think '97 was the rise of Goldberg, which we can also talk about because man, there's a lot to say about that.
1997 is arguably one of the best years in all of professional wrestling.
Oh my
We,
god.
dude, first of all, yeah, this is the debut of Kane. This is Austin winning the world championship. This is the prominence of The Rock. This is Vince McMahon becoming the best heel in wrestling history. This is Mankind becoming a wrestling star, right?
Oh
This
my
is
god.
this is Shawn Michaels at the tail end of his 90s career. Like there's so much going on. This is the rise of Triple H, right? This is the Undertaker doing his thing, becoming more supernatural. Like still do like being a main event player. This is WWF turning a lot of their guys into stars who were not meant to be stars. WCW, on the other hand, were still riding strong, but they were riding on the coattails of the NWO. I cannot tell you how many individuals were in the NWO.
Oh my god. Let's name out
It
every
really,
member now.
it really feels like everybody was in the NWO except Sting. It felt like it was Sting versus NWO for 4 years
Yeah, it's like
until
Sting,
Wolfpack.
Roddy Piper. I guess he was another one who never really joined. That's the only two that I know. Disco Inferno.
Yeah. So, but WWF, like we talked about it early, they had to do the edgier product. Yeah. So NWO they're running roughshod. Eric Bischoff has started essentially putting himself on TV more and more and more to the point where it's like, all right, what else can we do in WCW that's not the NWO? But thank God, the emergence of a retired football player, Goldberg. This character is actually mythical in WCW. The man's entrance has become so legendary that the crowd carries it. Goldberg, Goldberg. They're chanting it, right? And then his entrance, security knocks on the door. He needs a security escort. And this man wrestles a good 30 seconds to 2 minute match.
Yeah.
Everyone gets hype. He does what he needs to. The problem is you can't put him in a match longer than that, or else he's got to get exposed for what he is, which is not a wrestler. He's an entertainer at the end of the day.
Yeah. Um, Goldberg was definitely someone who, well, before I want to talk about Goldberg, we mentioned Kane, and that just completely made me forget about my favorite pair of wrestlers, fake Razor Ramon and fake Diesel, which was crazy. So so as we talked about, Kevin Nash, Diesel, and Scott Hall, Razor Ramon left for WCW. Vince McMahon was like, well, we still have the characters technically. Let's get Glenn Jacobs as Kevin Nash or Diesel, and let's let some random dude be Razor Ramon. So
It
yeah,
sucked.
it was pretty stupid and pretty bad. But anyways, back to Goldberg. Yeah, I feel like there's no one to hold a grudge more than Bret the Hitman Hart.
He
And
hates everyone in the business.
I'm shocked he forgave Vince McMahon, if I'm being honest. Like, I can
Well,
forgive
he
the
says he
screw job.
forgives, right? But he
Yeah.
keeps talking shit.
Yeah, but he still shows up time to time. And I guess he's on good terms with Sean. Um, which I don't know. I mean, personally, I would forgive the screw job, but I could never forgive my brother dying and just continuing with the pay-per-view. But
Yeah,
that's just
a
me.
match has to be had. Pay per view is a pay per view.
I guess so. But yeah, Bret Hart knows how to hold a grudge, and I don't fully blame him. But Goldberg kind of injured him for life. Gave him a concussion that was so severe that he could never wrestle really again, except that one stupid match with Vince McMahon at WrestleMania like 26. That was
Yeah,
pretty stupid. But Goldberg was someone who, you know, reminds me of, I don't know, reminds me of a lot of wrestlers, I guess, nowadays. Someone like Brock Lesnar sometimes
I
depends on
think
what kind of move.
immediately. Sorry, go
So,
ahead. But like when I think Goldberg, the first person that pops in my head is Wardlow from AEW.
Wardlow, yeah,
Yeah, because like he
yeah,
has the very Goldberg-esque entrance, the mythical figureness of him. Except that Wardlow is actually a very skilled wrestler.
yeah, yep.
Wardlow's an incredibly
I
talented guy.
guess you can compare Goldberg more to, or you can compare Ryback more to Goldberg, which I feel like that's what everyone was chanting when Ryback was out in 2012. They were like, Goldberg, because he's pretty much just Goldberg. But anyways, yeah, Goldberg had a. I remember when I was a kid, and I guess when you're a younger fan, or just someone who wasn't really too invested in the business, you're just invested in the entertainment side, which is perfectly fine. Um, Goldberg was entertainment. It's not very often that you have this streak of just 100 and I don't know what 80, 70 and something like
It was,
that.
they would inflate the record more and more each week. I don't even know what the streak was, but holy crap! The WCW, that was their mistake. They were so obsessed with the ratings that they had to
Yeah,
have Goldberg win the world championship on a Nitro when they really could have built it up.
yeah,
And he was United States champion at the time too. He beat Hogan, and like Hogan versus Goldberg should have been a pay per view match. Um,
mhm.
that's a
And
mistake by WCW is rushing things.
one of the things that pissed me off about the whole Goldberg thing was the way his first loss was with Kevin Nash. And the way he lost was because he got electrocuted or some shit by
Yeah,
interference. And
Taser by Razor or Scott.
yeah, taser by razor. Say that 10 times fast. But yeah, taser by razor. But seriously, it just felt like a cheap, you know, victory over a streak that was so prestigious.
That's what I'm saying. This Roman
I
Reigns
mean,
streak better end in a good old match.
yeah, by
I don't want no interference.
Omos. Yeah, but almost yes. But yeah, Goldberg was just someone who was just star factor. He wasn't really great in the ring. I think eventually he improved a tiny bit, and I mean like a tiny bit. Honestly, I don't know. It's just cool to see Goldberg sometimes, not when he's in Saudi Arabian main events with The Undertaker in 2019. It's terrible. It's
Yeah,
shitty. But anyways,
but
yeah, go on.
no, like that's almost like this attitude era, these edgy product, the violence first of all, right? the violence is on the chart. You're getting ladders involved, you're getting tables involved, you're getting chairs, uh, more chair shots more frequently, more blood frequently, more vulgarity in the like. You're getting vulgar women on TV.
Yeah,
But also,
the
I think the
Nitro
most
Girls.
right? The most important part to me was the amount of star power. Like, holy crap. You talk about the top 5 guys in WCW. I'm talking Hogan, Sting, Goldberg, Flair, and
You could
at,
say
at,
Kevin Nash, but I don't
you'd
really
say
like
Kevin
Kevin
Nash.
Nash. I don't
But
really
and
like Kevin
also the influx of money they had was so important. But you talk about the
Nash.
WWF. These guys did not have the money at the time like they did, so they had to get more creative. You get things like Degeneration X. You get
Yeah.
you get a bunch of factions. You get The Rock doing amazing things. You get Mankind.
You get
If
Triple
I'm
H
thinking
doing blackface.
when we talk about WWF, the biggest 5 stars from their side, I'm immediately thinking Stone Cold Steve Austin, who probably is gonna go down as the biggest star in history, right? Stone Cold, The Rock. M- Arguably, Mankind is a top 5 at this time. I would say The Undertaker and Kane, Triple H, Shawn
Where's
Michaels.
Shawn?
Shawn
Yeah,
Michaels is not
Shawn.
very active.
No, he
Well,
wasn't
I
very
would, s-
active. That's
I
weird to
would,
think, by the way. Like Shawn Michaels was in the beginning of the Attitude Era, but not very much after.
yeah, exactly. Like, there's so much going on. There's so much star power that I could leave Shawn Michaels off that list. That's insane.
Yeah, and
So, yeah,
I remember Chris Jericho said this once. I believe I think it was on Hot Ones or it was on some sort of interview, and I found it very. It must have been with I was with a Stone Cold's interview, and he was like, "Well, Attitude Era was something special because in the '80s you had Hogan, you nowadays you have Roman Reigns, 2000s you had John Cena, but '90s or late '90s at least it was so cool because not only did you have Steve Austin, you had The Rock. You had two high stars at once. Because yeah, you have John Cena and Randy Orton in the 2000s, but John Cena was always a little higher.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's John Cena's a different level.
he's a different level. You have Hogan and Randy Savage, but Hogan was on a completely different level. But Rock and Austin were just two top stars that could both be put on the Mount Rushmore happening at the same time, which is I guess more than you can say for WCW because WCW had a lot of top stars, but there's always that one top star in WCW, and you can debate whether that was Goldberg or Hogan or whoever, but Austin and Rock changed the business, and they're probably debatably one of the reasons why WWE is still alive to this day and WCW died because they were just so good. That great on the mic. They switched the the promo game up. They switched they switched the attitude button on. And I want to talk about Mick Foley because we brought him up originally. Um, Mick Foley winning the WWF championship was such an amazing moment, but
Huge.
it was such a backfire by WCW because since WWF was pre-taped, WCW the commentators, I believe it was like Eric Bischoff or something, was
Tony
like
Schiavone. Yeah.
Tony Schiavone was like, "Oh man, guess that boy Mick Foley won the championship." Ah ha 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 ha. What? It's pre-taped. So then all the WCW viewers switched over to WWE to see Mick Foley win the championship because they'd rather see that. That was such an amazing moment.
It's huge.
And
Especially when you
so,
beat a guy like The Rock.
yeah. And I mean, there were a lot of interferences, but whatever. It was a great moment.
That's probably the biggest Stone Cold pop of all time.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just fantastic, and it was such a backfire from WCW because WCW was like, man, what a joke! It's pre-taped, but then they ruined their whole viewership ratings.
Do they
And
not know about the finger poke of doom? Do they
oh
know
my
about jokes?
god, oh man, I wanted to forget about the finger poke of doom, but yeah, the finger poke of doom. You want to talk about that some more?
Yeah. So this boy Kevin Nash has beat Goldberg finally for the World Heavyweight Championship, right? And now what's going on with the NWO? What's the relationship like with Hogan and Nash? Nash has a championship. Hogan is the number one contender. What's gonna happen?
Man.
Little did we know, we thought we were gonna see the end of the NWO. Finally, thought we were gonna see like some splitting between the NWO. No, Hulk Hogan pokes Kevin Nash, and Kevin Nash falls to the ground and gives up the world championship. This is a
Oh man.
disgrace to world championships.
Yeah.
This ruins, in my opinion, this is like probably the initial downfall of WCW. And when we talk about WCW, you were mentioning like their biggest star. I would have to imagine it's Sting because he's
Oh yeah.
homegrown and he was the biggest thing of like the late '90s for WCW.
Yeah.
Um, but man,
I,
Finger Poke of Doom completely ruined the world championship, and that's saying something. Knowing how much that world championship has been ruined in that company.
we talked about this earlier, and yeah, like you mentioned, the world championship in WCW just felt like a joke. At some points, went to title holder to title holder to title holder in like 2000 or something, and then you have the finger poke of doom. You have again David Arquette winning it, and I'm not going to say WWE is cleared from that. They've definitely done the same thing. Putting the title on Vince McMahon was stupid. Making him win the Rumble was stupid. But
Hey, you do anything with McMahon and Austin, and it works. So I don't think it was that bad.
I don't
Vince
know.
McMahon is the greatest heel
That,
of all time.
that 99 Rumble was pretty shitty, man.
I honestly, I think all
It
Rumbles before like 2000 were not very good,
Hmm.
except '97.
Yeah, I was about to say 97 is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, 97 is cold.
But
But
even '95, '96, Shawn Michaels not very good in my opinion.
yeah, they good performances, but overall match no. Because again, 95, just to reiterate, star power was shit. So there was only like two people who could like realistically win that whole fucking match. But
Yeah,
yeah, and the world championship was just treated as a joke in WCW, like we said. And WWF, you could say the same thing sometimes, but not really. You all mostly had your big stars winning it, and the the WWF championship meant something. WCW by the end of it didn't mean shit, you know. And I mean, I want to talk about real quick. We didn't talk about this, but one of the most infamous moments in wrestling history, the curtain call, with Scott Hall, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and Kevin Nash, all breaking kayfabe and giving each other a big old fat hug in Madison Square Garden or whatever or wherever they were, and causing poor. Because okay, well, someone had to get punished here. Scott Hall was
Triple H.
leaving. Kevin Nash was leaving. Shawn Michaels is WWE champion. Let's punish Triple H, my future
Also,
son-in-law. Let's
so
get him.
Vince McMahon has some type of love affair with Shawn Michaels, where he's like, this boy cannot be punished. We love him too. He was in love with Shawn Michaels.
Remember the rumors when they had gay sex? Man, like, have you ever heard of those rumors? You haven't? That was
Not my kind of
apparently
rumors.
not your kind of rumors. That was going around the mill back in the 90s, man. I mean,
Mm.
that could explain the whole Playgirl situation with Sean. And then he found God apparently and switched up. And
Yeah,
then
but current call was like ruined kayfabe for a lot of fans. You see all these guys hugging before Kevin and Scott go off to WCW, and Triple H. Man, Triple H was supposed to win King of the Ring that year. He's supposed to get a championship match that year. Boy, he got pushed to the very bottom of the card. But the great thing about Triple H, he he stayed humble. He put his head down. He worked just twice as hard, and he became arguably one of the greatest of all time, especially in the '90s, picking up the ball.
and honestly, maybe it wasn't even that bad of a thing that happened to have Triple H not win King of the Ring because of what happened with Austin winning King of the Ring that
Exactly.
year. And it's crazy to think that in '96 that someone was able to record that. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, it's not very often you get cameras, but one person had a camera and just was filming these motherfuckers hugging and breaking kayfabe, and Vince McMahon was enraged in the back, and enraged. Now, one of my favorite Monday Night War moments was when Rick Rude came out, was best friends with D-Generation X, and then the same night, went to WCW and was like, man, those guys in WWE, man, they don't know what they're doing.
Man, oh man. It felt really crappy that all the WWF guys were going to WCW, but we didn't really see many people going the opposite way. And why would you, right? Less money, more work, like harder work schedule. Um, Rick Rude was
Uh,
definitely a great moment, but I think one of the best debuts of all time, a couple years later, was someone coming from WCW by the name of Jericho.
I was thinking about someone else, but yeah, Jericho's even better.
Yeah, I think the Jericho debut, in my opinion, is the greatest debut of all time.
Yeah.
Um, you have the goatee, you have the long so just the Millennium Clock itself, right? This thing is
Welcome
going off.
to Raw is Jericho. Oh
You had The
man,
Rock in the ring talking about the Big Show wearing the really short shorts and the long T-shirt. You know what that means. And
yeah,
as soon as the clock
yeah,
started, dude like whips around his neck and it's like, what's going on? And when Jericho came out, bro, when the name Jericho flashed on the screen, the crowd went insane. It was such a
man.
pop. Man, I honestly wish I could witness that live because Jericho's debut was something to witness. Also, it's a cruiserweight. It's a cruiserweight getting this big of a commotion. It's huge.
And it was such an amazing. I remember hearing the backstory to his debut because I love Chris Jericho, top 5 of my favorite wrestlers of all time, definitely. Because he's always an innovator, one of the best in the ring, one of the best in the mic, and he, he got that whole, back thing where he raises his arms out from Michael Jackson, which was a pretty cool thing to hear. And the whole Millennium thing, again, one of the best debuts that everyone was like, "What is this Millennium Clock doing?" It's Chris Jericho. I'm sad he didn't bring out his list of like 1,000 holds and started reading them off one by one. Armbar number 2, armbar, just all armbar. But that was an amazing debut. But the debut I was thinking you were talking about was the Big Show's debut. When he
Paul
came
White.
out the steel cage, Paul White, came out the steel cage and just choke slammed Austin, which
Yeah, it came from under the ring.
under the ring, yeah. Um, uh, and I think he let McMahon win that match. I think. And then he probably turned face and then heel like 80 times that year. I don't know.
But this was when Big Show was in shape. This is when Big Show can do a missile drop kick off the top rope.
When Big Show had long hair, man.
This is when Big Show was just in some tidy whities,
Yeah,
running
man.
around.
I remember when
But
he pulled down that whole Titantron. That was cool. That was pretty
y-
cool.
yeah. But what I really like remember about Monday Night Wars, what I remember about Attitude Era, uh, really was like the amount of violence we were getting now. You know,
Oh my god.
like we're
Yeah.
seeing WWF bringing in guys from ECW as well as WCW doing the same thing. We get the Dudley Boys in WWF. We get tables coming out. We get the APA just beating down people on a weekly basis.
Mick Foley and The Undertaker.
A man has been
Oh
thrown
my
off
god.
the top of a cage and then he gets up, which he should be rushed to the hospital, but no, he gets up, he climbs the cage again, and he gets put through the cage through the ring, and his teeth go through his nostril,
Oh man.
through his
Yeah.
lip to his nostril.
I will say this forever, and I always mean this. Mick Foley, Mankind, Dude Love, Cactus Jack is forever, in my opinion, the best entertainer to ever walk this planet Earth because not many men would do that. No one would do what he does, but he
You do.
still does it. And, I want him to beat up Hulk Hogan one day after that whole Hulk Hogan interview, pretty much calling him a fat ass. Like, you know,
Mick Foley got his revenge on the same talk show, TSN,
yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, but we talked about WCW superstars going to WWE. And one of the most significant ones is Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Perry Saturn, and Dean Malenko, the
The Radicals.
Radicals, just watching by ringside, and I think by this point, Chris Benoit shortly won the World Heavyweight
This
Championship.
was a week after he won the world championship and
Yeah.
rescinded it. Oh my god. What a
Man,
smack in the face to your world championship.
man. that was just great stuff. This was like pre um dangerous Benoit. This was wholesome Benoit, man. He was so friendly, out and about. What a great dad. And I don't know. 6 years later, he kind of fucked things up. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. I,
Maybe.
I, I see a lot of people on TikTok being like, "Rest in peace. He was such a good guy."
That's why I don't get. Why are people so quick to forgive Chris Benoit for what he did? Little side break here. Chris Benoit is a murderer at the end of the day. He killed two people, including a child, and then himself. But people are so quick to demonize, well, rightfully so, demonize a guy like Hulk Hogan, but not be forgiving of it, or demonize a guy like JBL for being a bully backstage, who has actually like changed his way to become a great guy.
Yeah.
Um,
But like,
but Chris Benoit, oh, he's a great technical wrestler. Like,
yeah,
bro, guess what? Technical wrestling is not uncommon. It's not like we see great technical wrestlers every day.
yeah, I mean, we can do a whole episode about this maybe sometime, but Chris, just this real thing, like Chris Benoit is, Paul Heyman said it right, I guess. Um, as a performer, one of the best, and as a performer, if we're just talking about that, one of my favorites, honestly. But the truth is, he's not someone who I don't believe should rest in peace. After what he's done, he's very terrible thing he's done, and it's really hard to even recognize or celebrate his amazing matches with everything he's done. But away from that, the Radicals debut was just man. I brought this up once, maybe not on the show, but a modern day equivalent of that was whenever AEW brought in Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson in the same night. And like, in my opinion, it just felt that drastic of a change to me. You have two superstars, big stars. It's like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn I wasn't too familiar with, but there are huge stars in the WCW scene coming out of nowhere to WWE, just like how Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson were huge stars coming in to AEW. But yeah, the Radicals, and they did a big impact, man, especially Benoit and Guerrero, which is one of the few times where you see WWE treating WCW guys right, because sometimes they do fuck
I
it
think
up.
that I think it's a myth when people say like certain stars get treated worse because they come from WCW. But then I think of guys like Booker T. I think about guys like Goldberg coming in and winning world championships. I think of like Hogan, like Vince and Hogan were like real life enemies, but Hogan
Yeah,
came back in and he was given a major role. The NWO was welcomed with open arms. Kevin Nash, like Razor. Scott Hall was given a match with Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. You don't give that to
yeah,
someone you hate. You don't punish a guy like that. Obviously, you see guys like Perry Saturn and like Dean Malenko and guys like that not get like the biggest pushes, but I honestly don't think it's because they're from WCW. I just think because it comes down to, are you a star, and what
I,
makes a star? It's charisma.
I will say though, the invasion angle was something that just seemed a little too WWE centered. Because you had people like Kurt Angle and Stone Cold Steve Austin on WCW side, and then maybe you had Booker T and Rob Van Dam and Shane McMahon. And I don't know, the invasion angle sometimes just felt like, hey, we're the superior brand. But there are stars like Benoit, Guerrero, Mysterio is someone who we should talk about Mysterio some more.
Yeah,
And Booker T again, very big top stars getting pretty good storylines and pushes. And you also had I'm blanking. I have one of those brain farts. Oh my god. Um.
you know,
Anyways,
yeah.
yeah,
But like when we talk about invasion, why they had to do the stuff with like Stone Cold and Kurt Angle is because they couldn't grab those major contracts from guys like Goldberg, um, Hogan, Nash. So they had to run with the ball, and you can't run a legit invasion of Undertaker, Stone Cold, Kurt Angle, Kane, and versus Lance Storm
Lance
or
Storm, man.
you
Remember when
know,
his whole gimmick was being boring and then everyone made fun of him for being
because he
so
was.
boring? He is boring. I mean, poor guy.
But
But we talked about invasions. I almost blanked out on this invasion. Remember when DX invaded WCW Nitro?
I
Oh my
do.
God. What a moment that was. And so I also watched this cool little clip of a documentary of this where, man, they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know if they were actually going to go get in or not because this was not scripted, not staged, and then they shut the gates on him. And apparently, Bischoff said he didn't know that they were out there, and if he did know, he would so make him come to the ring because that's great TV. That's great for their ratings, which is true. Um, which could have backfired on WWF if I'm being completely honest with you, because who wouldn't want to see DX go to WCW even if it is an invasion? That's still ratings
Free
for
television.
yeah, free television. That'd be awesome. But oh man, that was such an amazing moment. And this was when you had China, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, X Pac, who just left WCW at that time, I think. Um,
Yeah, he made the Raw after WrestleMania return. You know,
yeah,
Triple H was like, "You have to look to your blood," and then Xbox came out and he did Xbox things because
the
Xbox.
X Pac things have
Sorry,
that
Sean Waltman things.
Sean Waltman things. Yeah, like have sex with China, recorded live. Man, that was a great sex thing.
Standards, bro. Standards.
Standards, man. But yeah, I mean, I will say China was another big star in the Attitude Era. We talked about how Alundra Blaze pretty much killed the women's division in WWE for a good minute.
Sable fixed it.
Yeah,
Sable fixed it.
Sable fixed it with those handprint titties. Isn't she married to Brock Lesnar right now? Right?
She is Brock Lesnar. Please
Yeah.
don't kill us.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, you're right. Actually, we're sorry,
Yes.
Brock Lesnar. Um, but man, who do you think though at the end of the day
Mm.
won the Monday Night Wars, or objectively through
What
year?
company got bought out?
Yeah. Well, that was a dumb question, but objectively year through years,
Which one was
like
better?
from 95 to 2001, who had the upper hand?
When we talk about more impact on pop culture at the time, it's WCW. Uh, every kid from 95 to 99 has a Sting action figure.
Yeah.
Everyone, right?
You had those
Hulk Hogan,
WCW video games too, which were great.
exactly. Yeah. Hulk Hogan is the still the biggest name in the world, and he's the biggest villain. You have a guy like Ric Flair who
Yeah.
embodies wrestling. You have Goldberg who's become your new attraction. But WWF, I legitimately think one man, it could not have been done without one man. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
If there is no Stone Cold Steve Austin, there is no Monday Night Wars. It's just the WCW Nitro, in my opinion.
What do you think is that one moment that officially started the Attitude Era, or officially started the incline to WWE winning the Monday Night Wars?
I think it was Montreal. Um,
Yeah.
I
Um,
think this was huge because obviously people are cheering for the bad guys and stuff because we know wrestling is not real at this point, right? But this was a moment like, did that is that a work? Is that shoot? There's still wrestlers today who claim it's a work. Scott Hall died thinking it was a work.
man. And if it
I
was,
remember.
then I mean, it kind of was a smart work. Maybe
Like,
Hall and Nash was a work going over to WCW. Maybe he's
I mean,
just denying, bro.
they're playing a very long game then.
Yeah,
But
they
the
won at
moment
the
that
end of it.
started the moment that started the war was definitely Scott Hall showing up on Nitro. I don't think it was Luger, and I don't think it was Alundra Blaze. I think it was Scott Hall showing up. I think that started the war, the
Yeah,
actual war. Well, actually,
pretty
if
much.
we're going by technical story, the war actually started in the 1980s. I think Black Saturday when Vince McMahon bought GCW, but
Yeah,
that's for a different time. Um, what started the Attitude Era, in my opinion, was Montreal. what ended the wars had to be the firing of Eric Bischoff. When
Yeah.
WCW firing Eric Bischoff, Eric Bischoff may be responsible for ruining WCW, but he's also responsible for making it what it was, what Nitro was. So there is no NWO without Bischoff. There is no Goldberg. There is none of this, and that's why Hogan and Bischoff trying to run it back with TNA and running it on Monday nights. We have this
Man,
thinking Monday Night Wars, which failed about 10 weeks in.
I love the feud that Eric Bischoff and Tony Khan have. Oh
What
my
is going
god.
on?
I don't know. I remember there used to be like, I guess, buddy buddy, and like Eric Bischoff was going to AEW shows. And then Eric Bischoff gave some criticisms, and Tony Khan didn't like criticism. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I what talking about the Monday Night Wars makes me really think: are we going to have another Monday Night War with AEW? Because obviously they have their Wednesday night show, they have their Friday night show, which is now going to be a Wednesday night and Saturday night show with Collision coming up. Um, are they going to get big enough to the point where we have another major battle? Because it's not about TV ratings anymore. We know about that. It's about attendance. It's about merch sales. It's about overall gross profit revenues. It's about booking dates and events. TV ratings really don't matter anymore. But will we see another Wednesday night war, Monday night war? I mean, obviously, Raw is still the flagship show.
and the answer, in my opinion, which is one of the few things I agree with Dave Meltzer is no. And that's not me saying that because I'm a huge WWE fan. I watch that more than AEW. I still watch a lot of AEW, but I'm saying that because I mean AEW's big, and it's the second biggest wrestling company of all time, or not of all time. What the hell? Of currently in the United States, and it's a great alternative. But I feel like that's what it's known as. It's an alternative. It's the second biggest, the second best. That's not saying it's not good, but when it comes to just rating wise, when it comes to merchandise sales, it's coming in second. Um, it's an
Yeah.
amazing product and better in ring matches, in my opinion, than WWE will probably has. But at the end of the day, it's not as big as WCW. Maybe it'll take a few years for it to get as big as WCW. Who knows?
Mm.
But you know, it's great to just have two choices. AEW, WWE, watch them both at the same time. Good thing they're not happening at the same time anymore, really, because holy shit.
I mean, Rampage and SmackDown, but Rampage has become the new AEW Dark. But I will
Yeah.
say it is the alternative, right? But I never thought they could actually be the competitor until the news we got yesterday. Obviously, right now is what Thursday. We got last night on Dynamite that CM Punk is returning officially on Collision. And to me,
Yeah.
CM Punk is at the moment, Roman Reigns is the biggest guy in wrestling, but the biggest name in all of wrestling to me right now is CM Punk. Because
Mm,
no matter what he's doing, he could be sitting on a couch and he could not have wrestled in like 4 or 5 years. Everyone's gonna talk about him. This move, if CM Punk attends an Impact Wrestling show, everyone's gonna talk about it. Remember when CM Punk was backstage at Raw?
yeah.
That's all anyone talked about for like a week. All the speculation. He's the biggest guy. He's the biggest name.
Yeah.
So AEW was smart to bring him back. They need to bring him back. That's the only way, in my opinion, they're going to be a competitor if they have a big star like that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you can't just promote your company as just being good wrestling and thrive. Because if you just want good wrestling, watch the indies, right?
Yeah.
What do a casual fan want? They want story. They want charisma. They want characters.
And
And that's what CM Punk is. He's a big name. So I actually wish AEW success
yeah.
because that just means better everything, right? Better product, better wrestling, bigger stars. So I hope they get as big as WCW was. I just don't see it happening, but I hope they do.
Yeah, definitely. And we're near the end of the episode. I do want to bring out one thing, something that I remembered from my brain fart earlier. I just want to mention how funny it was whenever uh, Vince McMahon fired Jeff Jarrett on live television.
Who's Jeff Jarrett?
which is hilarious considering the fact that Vince McMahon isn't really known to hold grudges, but I guess the wound was too fresh during that time, so he was like, Jeff Jarrett, you are FIR. I forgot, he was doing some play on thing.
Yeah, it's like, you won't see a guy like Jeff Jarrett in the WWF. I was like, oh my god,
you are FIRED, fired. Fucking, that
yeah.
was great. That was
Hey,
great.
Jeff Jarrett immediately turned around and started TNA. So, and now he's
that.
not a he's an AEW now. So
Yeah, and at least he made good terms with with Vince McMahon, I think, by 2018, which is pretty cool.
yeah, special guest referee in the SummerSlam tag team match, Usos and Street Profits, right? And Royal Rumble 2019 appearance.
Underwhelming ass match, I'll be honest with you.
I like that match.
The Money in the Bank one exceeded.
Yeah, Money in the Bank one exceeded.
But anyways,
that's what WWE does. All right.
That was fun. Stay tuned for next episode, and we'll see what next episode's gonna be. And yeah, hope you guys like. Oh my god. Remember, home dogs, stay restless.
Stay restless.
That was.